I'm gonna be completely honest here. I did not expect that type of information in this chapter. The final page, with Adam just saying a number. That number is Norman's ID number on his neck. I am very shocked that the writer's already diving into Norman. I figured that would be a ways off until we finally got back into Norman, but that does not seem to be the case. It actually looks like we're finally going to be getting information on Norman very soon, and also we're getting hints at him definitely being alive, which that was obvious because of the whole scene with him. It's just, there's too many mystery marks all throughout, what happened to him when he was, being shipped off and all that. He just looked very shocked when he knew what he should have expected. So, there's always been that theory to where he most likely is still alive, because we haven't seen a body. And this chapter with Adam just repeating this one number over and over again, I'm like, okay, there's two things that could be going on here. Either A, that is Norman, Adam is Norman, like he got messed up, his mind got completely destroyed or whatever with whatever experiments they were doing to him, or B, Adam is someone that's a genetic modification to a regular human, and he escaped from the trial plantation that was mentioned in this chapter to be able to just, be there and try to be free. And Norman was someone that helped him out or something. That's why he knows Norman's barcode. That's the only thing I could assume. Now, besides that, though, let's get right into the chapter, okay? So, to start it off, Emma finally gets some information. They finally find out what is going on in this world, in this series, The Promised Neverland. Sadly, we don't really get to find out anything. For instance, Emma finds out what the 7 walls are, she finds out about all this other stuff going on, but us, as the reader, we don't get to find out what she knows. So, in this way, it's like she is aware of things, she's way more aware of things than we are, and we're left in the dark while she already knows what's kind of coming. So, it's kind of messed up, but at the same time, I understand from a writing perspective, that's what the writer wants to do, wants us to know that Emma is aware of whatever is coming, but at the same time, we are left in the dark for, tension and not knowing what to expect. Emma and Lucas both open up the desk, and when they open up the desk, they realize there is nothing inside. And at first glance, when you see this, you're going to be like, oh, whoa, that means there's nothing in there, it's all gone. But then what Emma says and clarifies to us, basically saying if it wasn't for that, then it would be very worrisome, because if there was a bunch of materials in there, it's obvious since there was a traitor, someone might have went in there, stole something, and removed all the important details out. So because of that, we do know for a fact that, having the stuff not right out in the open inside of the desk makes it to where most likely nothing has been tampered with, and Emma was able to check and see if there was a false bottom or whatever in, the desk, and she eventually found a little memory chip, which I'll get into in a second. But I want to talk about a little panel in that moment when Emma was, opening up the desk. You see Lucas right behind her with his face completely shadowed out. And with the face being completely shadowed out, I just couldn't help but feel like there was something else going on there. I know maybe in that moment, maybe the writer and the artist wanted us to focus in on Emma's expression, but when you look at everything, it doesn't seem like that's really what you should be doing, because it's not like Emma's overall art in that moment was impressive or anything. So I'm like, why would the writer go out of their way to kind of shadow out or shade out, Lucas's face, unless something else is going on? And in that moment, I started thinking about certain things while reading this chapter, and I'm like, what if Lucas is a traitor? That's a very likely possibility, and I'll get into that in a moment. I'll talk about that in a second, but let's get back into, the stuff with, the desk. So when they finally open it, they find a little memory chip, and apparently we get clarification now that the pen that Emma's been using, that actually is, has a memory chip. The cap is a memory chip you put in. It's like, a memory card or something, which is really cool. I like that, because it finally clarifies where its storage, capabilities are at, but also lets us know that the pen most likely is going to have a lot of usage in the future, because if they ever discover another cap or whatever, they can put a new one in and get more information. So it's kind of like a USB in a way. That's kind of how you can view it. The pen is a USB. Weird, but I feel like that's going to be very important in the future. With the information gathered with the pen, we find out everything. Well, we don't, but, Emma does. And, she finds out about the 7 walls. She finds out about, how you can cross between the worlds. She finds out about where the plantations are. She finds out about basically everything that is going on. Her allies, the location of the allies, how to contact them. Everything was basically found out in this chapter. They got all the information they need. And this is insane because this is some insane progression. For now, Emma now knows what's going on in the world. They can finally make actual steps to trying to change things, and that's just rather ridiculous when you think about it. Like, whoa, like, she already knows, like, the secret of the world, what's going on now, you know, with everything else that's been built up for a while. It's just, it feels like the Promised Neverland is going a little bit fast, in my honest opinion. I don't think it's getting rushed. I don't think it's necessarily gonna end soon. It just, like, with all this information that Emma just got, it just makes me wonder, like, whoa. So for her to get this information makes me wonder what you know, it is. Like, for instance, the 7 walls, and how hard is it going to get to be, you know, get there? Because, I mean, for them to already have this information this early on in the series, especially when shown it can be very long, I'm just like, okay, so, it's going to probably be a challenge, or a new objective is going to pop up before everything is said and done. Now, let's talk about the beginning segment, the, Peter stuff. So, we get to finally see who the traitor was. For instance, we knew that William Minerva, James, was betrayed by a close ally. But little did we know the person that actually betrayed him was his own brother. And that's a very sad thought when you think about your own family member basically throwing you under the bus and trying to, you know, save his own neck and save the family's neck. Which, in a way, that goes back to what I said in my last week's video of The Promised Neverland. For instance, you sacrifice the few for the many, and that's kind of what's going on there. For instance, he realizes that even if he loves his brother, you can see he does. You can tell by his reaction, all that, to his brother, he does care about his brother, but at the same time, he's thinking of the good of everybody else instead of just his brother, and he's like, I'm willing to sacrifice my brother to save everyone else and, you know, save our family as well. And so he turns against his brother and, you know, basically throws him under the bus and caused everything that's happened in this recent arc of The Promised Neverland. Now, I do want to point out that when we found out about James and Peter now, Peter, he is someone that actually would have allowed James to do whatever he wanted. For instance, he would have allowed William Minerva James to make little shelters and stuff. He would have been fine with that. If it was a tiny little shelter for them to spend out the rest of their days, he would have, you know, turned a blind eye and not even cared about it at all. But thanks to William Minerva going out of his way and making this big settlement, which, you know, that place we see in this arc of Goldie Pond, which now that is officially confirmed, that William Minerva did create that, and he was going around creating stuff like this, and basically this also means that, you know, with this type of creation, it didn't sit right with, you know, Peter at all. He's like, no. You make it something this large, that automatically means you're trying to start a rebellion or something and break the promise. I don't want that at all. So that right there let us know that he was fine with, like, regular stuff, the other shelters, and he didn't care about it. So that's probably why the shelters were never compromised at all, is because he didn't really need to say anything, because he didn't care about that. He, more along the lines, he just did not want a possibility of a rebellion through, you know, something at Goldie Ponds. That's the big thing right there. So I do like that, and it does add a little bit more depth to Peter's character, letting us know that he's not entirely evil. Like, he does seem to have somewhat of a heart. I mean, he's probably going to, you know, condemn everybody. I mean, he even said it in the chapter, like, he's willing to, you know, execute all the children because they need to be exterminated because they should not be allowed to cross into our world, or the human world. So, I mean, we know he's not a good dude, and he's probably going to be the main antagonist of the series, but overall, though, it doesn't seem like he is that bad of a guy. Like, the only reason why he's bad is because, like I said, he's sacrificing the few for the many, but at the same time, he is doing something that is for everybody else in his world. So he's not entirely with a lack of empathy, if you get what I'm saying. Hopefully I got that message across. So, anyways, moving on to the next part, let's also talk about the name sense, Peter and James. So, I don't know how many noticed this or not, okay? But the whole Peter and James stuff, that's a reference to Peter Pan. The whole thing with James and Peter, their names, it is a reference to Peter Pan. The Promised Neverland. Think about it. The Promised Neverland, Peter Pan. Let's go to Neverland. You get it? So, it's pretty cool when you think about it like that there is a Peter Pan theme going on with this series, and it does make sense, since it's called The Promised Neverland. It does. So, James, William Minerva, is the equivalent to Captain James Hook, while Peter, the one that turned against his brother, is Peter Pan, which in a way is weird when you think about the dynamic of the story of Peter Pan, because Captain James Hook, he was a dude that's, was the main villain and all that. And in this case, I guess when you look at the story from everybody's perspective, I guess William Minerva is a villain, because he is trying to break the promise and all that, and bring, war to both sides. I mean, he doesn't want to, but that most likely is bound to happen. So, in a way, I could see why he might be labeled as, Captain Hook, because, he is technically against the morals of both worlds. And Peter is someone that wants to keep the world sacred where only a select few can stay there. For instance, keep the demons out and keep the cattle out, or the children out, or the, human farm feed, or whatever name you want to throw to them. Basically, he wants to keep them away. So the Fiend does fit, the names do in a way. It's just it's very ironic that Peter Pan's supposed to be a good dude, but in this case, Peter is a bad guy, while Captain James Hook, that's supposed to be, an evil guy, is actually a good guy in this sense. It does make me wonder if we're going to have Peter Pan references. I wonder if we're going to have a gator reference or something. That would be really cool. The gator, the famous iconic gator from the Peter Pan story and all that, with the clock and all that. I wonder if that will be added for the series. I'm very curious about that one. Anyways, moving on, let's also talk about the next part is Lucas. So Lucas being the traitor. So now, I've mentioned this a while back. I did say that maybe Lucas might not be who he says he is. He might not be entirely good. But everything we've seen from him overall does seem like he's a decent dude. It seems like he just holds a lot of anger within him to where he does want to destroy the demon world. And that will probably lead it to where he wants to cause war between both sides. And that's not necessarily what Emma probably wants at all. She wants to go to the Seven Walls. And as I talked about, most likely the individual main characters are going to be doing their own thing. For instance, Norman, since we got hints that he's alive, most likely he's going to want to find out a way to kind of secretly, get, children out into the other world, very similar to William Minerva. Or, you have Ray that's going to want to start a war and destroy everything. Or you're going to have someone like Emma that wants to go to the Seven Walls. They each have their own objective. And Lucas is that guy that falls into the category of wanting to destroy everything. And that's kind of why I thought he might not be a traitor, is because of how he's been acting. But at the same time, though, you got to wonder, for him to be around this long and the information we got from this chapter, it makes you question. It really makes you question, how has he not been discovered yet? Because let's back up and think about this. We discover that Peter talked to Lord Bayon. Bayon is the person that owns the territory of Goldie Pond, the demon. We've seen him, and he owns this territory, so that means that for him to be in contact with Peter and told him about the place and what William was trying to do, that would mean that he should know that there is a hidden little bunker base down below. Now, most likely he was never able to access it because of a pin. Maybe William and ever James, he never told, his brother Peter how to access it. Maybe he kept the secret, close to him with the pins and all of that, and maybe he never even said anything. And so, since they were never able to get a hold of a pin or whatever, most likely that is why they never got to see what was in there. And that's why, the details and all of that were safe, because you need a pin to access it. But at the same time, though, does make you wonder. Since Lord Bayon obviously is in the know, he is in contact with the promised family and all that, with Peter's family and William and Minerva's family, that would mean that he should know about the entirety of Goldie Pond. So you would think he would want to protect anyone from getting down there, or he would check there as well if, he can't find a certain individual. So you're like, could this possibly mean that Lord Bayon may have struck a deal with Lucas to keep him alive? I could definitely see that, because we do know that there's some higher-up officials when it comes to the demons that are communicating with humans. We even see it in this chapter. So that does mean that the demons are capable of making deals with humans and also able to actually not probably kill them and restrain themselves. So that's the interesting part about this entire thing. It makes you wonder if Lucas, the reason why he survived so many years is because he made a deal to sell out everybody, or help out if a person with a pin comes around, and then give them the information they need, and he'll be able to go scot-free. And maybe he, at one point or time, was doing that, but now that he's got information on them and all that, maybe he's trying to turn against them, but he might not necessarily be a good dude. Like, he could have sacrificed a bunch of people, but now that he finally has some hope, he's like, you know what, I want to try to go for it. I want to help out Emma. But in reality, he might be someone that was kind of crooked and doing some scummy, stuff on the side. That is a likely possibility, especially with that panel in this chapter when all of the kids and all that are like, you know, we trust Lucas. We're upset that he kind of lied to us, but we trust him. And the way that panel was done, I'm like, that's very, very shady. It's a very weird thing to say and all that, especially in a shonen with a character that has a lot of mystery around him. It's a very weird thing to say. It's kind of like, you know, the writer saying, look, this dude is some shady stuff. He most likely could potentially be a traitor, and that's the thought I got from that. So, honestly, that's what I think is going on. Most likely the dude probably changed his mind and he's trying to help out now, but he might have been a traitor and selling out everybody because he wanted to protect his own skin, and that's how he survived for so long. Possibility. So, yeah. Adam, obviously, his appearance and all of that, he looks like Norman. It's very obvious when you look at his design-wise. He just looks like a very swole Norman. That's exactly the best name you can give him, Swole Norman. And we gotta think about what was revealed in this chapter. It was revealed that there is a trial plantation. And the first thing I think of when I hear a trial plantation is that obviously something very important to the story. Okay, it's very important. For that little detail to be added into this chapter, it's obviously something that is very vital. Now, we know for a fact that this series has tried to use certain real-life elements from how we handle food in our industry in America and all other countries around the world. We've seen this, and in a way, this is more of like a viewpoint or a metaphor for what we do to cattle, actual cattle in real life, what's going on with the children. And I believe, probably, once again, we have another extreme version of what's going on in real life, and we're seeing it from, you know, the end of this chapter. What I'm talking about is what's going on with Adam. He might be the result of a genetic mutation. And what I mean by that is that the man most likely could have been a lab rat. Like, you know how in this day and age there is actually, you know, certain factories or, you know, scientists and all that trying to figure out a way to make food, like, you know, artificially create food, or, you know, how we change the DNA or genetic makeup of certain things to actually make it better for us humans to consume or, you know, to produce faster. What if the demons in the trial plantation are trying to manufacture their own humans? And so that is why Adam looks like Norman, because as I stated in my last chapter review, Norman looks a lot like James and Peter's family. He looks a lot like them. Like his facial structure and all that, his hairstyle, it looks very similar. And there's a very likely possibility that maybe he is related to their family. And that could explain why he had a shocked face. Maybe he's actually someone that is with their family now, or maybe he actually got to see, you know, the human world and he's going to be going there, or something else. Maybe he's being used as fuel to be able to make more people like him. Because with a trial plantation, it would make me assume that they're trying to figure out a way to make more humans, or, you know, good humans, because that's what we do. That's what we do as people as well. We try to figure out ways to mass produce fruits in a way that are even better, and, you know, through science or whatever, by manipulating it, and then also the same thing with meat as well. And that could be what's going on there. They're trying to make more Normans, and because they're trying to make more Normans, they're probably, you know, running into some issues. For instance, someone like Adam. Adam obviously is something that the demons wouldn't really want, because they really like the brains. And he may be swole, he may be very bulky, but he probably doesn't have the brains to back it up, which we know for a fact, because he apparently can't really comprehend certain sentences. So that means that the man most likely is a failed experiment that escaped, probably Norman helping him out. That's why he knows his number. I truly believe that what's going on here is a result of just like trying to make more humans, manufacture humans, and make some people or, you know, new humans just like Norman, and that's kind of where he's at right now. He's basically as the guinea pig to create more. He's a lab rat. I can definitely see that. So I'm going to end it there. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And I love you guys. Have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.